All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Hello there, and welcome to our webinar today, Injury Prevention. We're going to get started. I'm just going to give you an idea of what's going to be happening over the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to go over different ways to prevent injuries. We're going to talk about a few different tools and steps that we can take. We're going to talk about ways to approach our workouts. And we have a great special offer that we'll be potentially offering at the end of this webinar, and I just can't wait to go through this with you. Welcome. Now, what I'd like is, if you're on the webinar right now, I want to know if you can hear me okay. So if you could let me know, just maybe right in the chat area there, I believe it should say, there should be a chat area next to you. If you can let me know if you can hear everything okay, if you can see everything okay. And that looks great. Thank you so much for the response. It looks like we are live and everyone can hear and see. So we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen here so you can see what I'm looking at. And let's see. Very good. And there we go. So now you're looking at my screen, and we're going to go through this webinar. I have a question for you. Is this you? Does this sound like you? Have you started fitness and exercise challenges before, or maybe even just decided that you're going to begin to exercise, and maybe you started to begin this exercise program, and for the first couple of weeks, it seems to be going well, and you're doing just fine, not really having any problems, really excited. But then in a couple of weeks, we start to fade off a little bit. Maybe these hard workouts, maybe there's a lack of motivation. Maybe for some reason you're not seeing the same kind of results that you'd like to see. Or maybe sometimes these hard workouts just hurt. Now, soreness may be okay, but actual injuries are not, and we have to make sure that we take care of things differently. And I'm convinced that you can make it through every challenge if you follow a few simple steps. And this is the basis of our injury prevention system that we do here in our office. And we're going to talk about it. But before we do that, I want to share with you just a little bit more about me. I'm Dr. Emil Tompkins, and over the last 12 years, we've served thousands of patients, helping them to feel better, helping our patients to live healthier. And I also spent years stopping and starting fitness programs because I'd hurt myself. I would go for a while, and something would start to bother me, and eventually I would just stop. And I didn't actually realize it was an issue until I had a conversation with my wife, and she would ask me, "How's that workout going?" And eventually, and at some point, I'd say, "Well, I'm not doing that anymore." And she'd say, "Why? Because you hurt yourself?" And I didn't realize that was actually an issue that I was dealing with. I think at some point I thought it was normal. Even though the conversations with my patients, I'm guiding them to do something different, guiding them to take steps to make sure that they're not getting injured. But I don't know that I was applying all those for myself. So I made sure that I created a system not only for myself, but then we work on applying it to our patients so that they can go throughout their exercise program and their lives injury-free, and knowing what to do, or if for some reason an injury does come. And so we're very excited about that program. So we're going to talk about some of the steps that we're going to need to take. Number one, we need to make sure that we're really prepared. You want to know the equipment. If you're beginning an exercise program, you want to know the equipment that you're using. If you go to a different gym or a new workout facility, the equipment can be different. I worked out at what you'd call maybe a pretty standard gym with the machines and some free weights and basketball courts and those kinds of things. And then most recently moved to a fantastic gym. But in that gym, we've got some free weights, some dumbbells, and and we've got ropes and medicine balls and pull-up bars and sleds and big heavy tires and hammers and all sorts of things that are completely different. And you want to make sure that you know and understand the equipment that you're dealing with. That will be the first step in making sure that you prevent injury. Because if you just jump out there on something brand new that you haven't experienced before, not knowing how to use it, then you're going to be much more likely, much more likely to get injured. So step number one, know the equipment. And if there's something you don't understand, trainers in the gym that you're in would definitely be able to help explain certain things so that you're not out there hurting yourself. So we want to make sure that we know the equipment. You also want to know yourself. Things like how much weight you realistically can lift. And an example of this, my son just recently started working out, and he's in high school, and he's now in the strength and conditioning class, and they have the kids lifting weights. And he came home the other day and he told me, I was lifting weights with these guys, and I don't think I realized how much weight they were using, and I was trying to lift, and it was just too much. I just couldn't do it very well. And he just had no idea of what was normal, or what was an amount of weight that he could handle. So he just lifted what. Well, you have to watch that, because if you just lift whatever's around, and or you try to look like you're stronger than you are, you're much more likely to get hurt. So watch the amount of weight that you're lifting, and if you're not sure, you want to start much lighter than what you think you can handle, and then work your way up from there. You're much better off if you start easy and then work your way up to doing something that's harder, compared to starting with something that's really hard that might hurt you, and then you can't do anything. You ask for assistance if you don't understand, or if you're not sure how much weight you need. And one of the things that I hear from my trainer, his name's Mike Hernandez at RPP Counterpunch. It's this fantastic boxing gym here in Tucson. And one thing that he says to all of us is, there are no heroes here. There's no one here that needs to show off or look like they're bigger or stronger than they are. There's no heroes, and basically he's saying that because he doesn't want anyone to do too much or do something that's going to create injury. And I think it's a great motto. Don't try to be a hero, especially if you're just beginning with the workout. So we want to make sure that we're prepared, where we know the equipment that we're using, and we know ourselves, and we know how we respond to exercise. The next step is knowing good form. And this means something different with each exercise. If you're doing a bench press, good form means something different than when you're doing squat. It means something different than if you're doing a deadlift. Each of these exercises requires something different when it comes to good form. Think about the kind of, and that we certainly wouldn't have the time in a webinar like this to go through each of exercises to go over good form. But in general, your body needs to be in a pretty neutral position. So you want to think about where your knees are, and make sure you're not knocking your knees when you're doing an exercise. Where are your head and chest? Usually any of those exercises, you don't want to be looking down to the ground. You don't want to be pushing your head forward. You don't want your chest facing the floor when you're doing any of these exercises. Usually those things need to be up, but again, it depends on the exercise. If you're doing a bench press or a chest press, where are your arms and your elbows? The farther away your elbows are from your body during any kind of arm exercise, will place more pressure on the elbows, will pressure on the shoulders. And it's amazing. Bench presses, which exercise, create more shoulder injuries than chest injuries, because we just don't do it right. So just make sure that you're using very good form. This will keep you from injury. That, if you're speaking a trainer in gout, or your healthcare provider, they can go over different ways to provide good form when you're doing the various exercises that you do. The next step, Make sure that you warm up. We're going to talk about stretching, and stretching is important, but you never want to just show up to the gym and start stretching. You actually need to get your so to warm up, there are all sorts of things you can do. You can go for a short run. You can, hit the exercise bike for a little bit, 3 to 5 minutes, really, just getting the tissues warmed up. Then start stretching. If you do that, you're much less likely to be injured. People who stretch before warming up actually slightly increase their chance of injury. So make sure you warm up first, then stretch. You'll be in much better shape. You'll notice a greater increase in flexibility. And just warm up before you stretch. You want to make sure that when you're stretching before you work out, you stretch every muscle group. So when you're stretching, let's say the arms, you stretch the front of the arms, you stretch the back of the arms. If you're stretching the legs, you stretch the quads and you stretch your hamstrings. You stretch every muscle group. And then depending on the area that you're working for that day, let's say it's leg day, then you want to make sure you spend a little bit of extra time stretching and working the legs. You don't only leg day, you do want to address every part of the body, because even on leg day, you're using every part of your body. So you want to make sure it's prepared for your workout. So remember, don't stretch in the cold. Make sure you get warmed up. Make sure that you focus attention. You stretch every muscle group. You focus attention, extra attention on the area that you're working. Now, let's say you start working out. You've done all these things. You're keeping good form. You're prepared. You know the equipment. You know yourself. You're warming up. You're stretching after you warm up. You've done all these things right. And then you start working out and something happens and you do have pain while you're working out. Well, then we have to start asking some questions to understand what is it that's creating this pain. So the first question, is this pain that happened during the workout, or is it pain that happened after the workout? Is this pain the same while you're exercising, or does it progressively worsen? So the first thing, if you're doing an exercise and you start having pain and that pain progressively worsens, you definitely need and want to stop that exercise. You're potentially causing injury to yourself, and you don't want to do that. You want to take care of this as quickly as possible so that you're able to get back to exercising as soon as you can. So if it progressively worsens, you do want to stop. Let's talk about some of the different things that can cause pain. You could have soreness during a workout that's due to lactic acid buildup. And that's just something that happens as you're working out. Your body hits the anaerobic area of activity. So your muscles are, instead of using oxygen now, they're using other kinds of fuel, and you have this lactic acid buildup. When that happens, your muscles are going to hurt. They're going to get sore. They're going to burn. That's the burn that you're feeling while you're working out. It's a buildup of lactic acid. And that's not necessarily an injury. So you can go as hard or as far as you can, and eventually that'll probably stop you. But it's also okay to work like the next day, work out again through that, because that actually helps to release that lactic acid from your body. Sometimes we work out, we get that lactic acid buildup, that first workout, we're incredibly sore. We don't think we can do anything else. We just want to lie in bed the next day. And that pain can last a week or two. And so we lie in bed and we don't do anything for that week or two. And then we decide, okay, I'm going to go back. We're going to work out again. And we do it and we get the same thing again. And it gets frustrating. And then we think, I can't work out because I'm going to have pain all the time. Well, you actually want to work your way through that lactic acid buildup, or you'll just keep having it with every workout. So you work out one day, you get that buildup, you get that soreness. It's okay to work out the next day. It'll actually help your body release that lactic acid, and then you'll feel better than if you decided just to rest. So it's okay to work through that. There are other things that can cause pain. Let's say you have soreness one day after an injury. So you worked out really well, you had a great workout, didn't hurt too bad, and then you wake up the next morning and you feel it in that body part. That is delayed onset muscle soreness. And this is normal. It actually is, there's actually microscopic damage that happens to the muscle cells But then over the course of about 24 to 48 hours, those muscle cells will then repair themselves stronger than they were. So that's actually normal and that's ideal. You kind of want that process to happen so that you can notice strength changes over. Very valuable. And you'll want to, that's perfectly fine. But it's also a reason why when you're working out and you're working a particular muscle group, you don't then the next day work out the same muscle group. You'll want to have at least one day in between muscle groups, and preferably a minimum of 2 days in between those muscle groups. And you'll see great changes in your strength, and great changes just in the results of your workout. So those are both normal and perfectly okay to continue working out if you have that delayed onset muscle soreness. You just want to make sure that you're very smart about it. Don't work out the same body part one day after the other. And then the other is the lactic acid buildup, that over time, if you're staying really good and hydrated, and over time your aerobic capacity improves, that will change for the better. It's okay to work through those. Some of the more serious things that can cause pain during a workout will be things like tendonitis or sprains, strains, or muscle pulls. Tendonitis is a rough one because it's an overuse injury. And the more and more exercise that you do, the worse and worse that injury gets. And if you're experiencing something like that, then a lot of times the only way to improve that is to stop whatever the aggravating activity is, and then doing some important things that are going to reduce the amount of inflammation that your body is going through. So you have to stop the activity. You have to work on reducing inflammation, generally with ice or some anti-inflammatory. There's certain anti-inflammatory supplements and natural things that can help you there. So a lot of the things that can cause soreness you can definitely work through. But once you start having injuries, then we have to step back for a moment, understand what's going on, and make some changes in what we're doing so that we can continue our exercise. Now, so we're trying to understand the cause. That was one of the first things. And then we need to talk about how to deal with the acute injury. So let's talk about that. There's lots of different ways that we can deal with it. Number one is rest. And rest does not mean just lying in the bed and not doing anything and just lying in the bed and not doing anything. You actually want to have active rest where you're still doing activities, where you're still moving, potentially even where you're still exercising, but just not working that injured body part, or not overworking definitely that injured body part. Active rest is much more effective than complete rest. If you have a significant sprain or tendonitis, that's when you may need complete rest of that area to completely heal. So rest is step number one. One of the next steps is ice. If you have an injury, you work out and something starts to hurt, one of the first steps you can take is ice. And I'm recommending ice, even though some people will put heat on different areas of the body that will hurt. And notice when they put the heat on, things start to feel better. Those muscles begin to relax, and we think it's working really well. But one of the problems, especially with acute injuries, is heat will bring more inflammation into the area. So even though while the heat is on, it feels better, over time, we have more and more and more inflammation in that area. If the injury is acute, you absolutely must use ice. So how are we going to do that? You want to ice for 15 minutes on the small body part. You want to ice for 20 minutes over a large body part. So a small body part would be an arm, a leg, a wrist, an elbow, a hand, ankles, that sort of thing. Small body parts, well, arms, ankles, neck, that sort of thing. 15 minutes on, and you want to rest for about an hour. And then you can do it again where you're icing for 15 minutes on and then resting for about an hour. Do that over and over again. That will over time help reduce the inflammatory response that's happening in the body. If it's a larger body part like the back especially, the hamstrings, the quads, those kinds of areas, you want to ice for about 20 minutes. So you go 20 minutes on and you rest for about an hour. And then you can do it again, and you can do that over and over again, and you'll notice that inflammation in the body begin to decrease. Those are a couple of things that you want to right away do to help to lower the body's inflammatory response. Depending on how serious it is, compression and elevation. You've probably heard this: RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Those are some of the steps that you can take to deal with the acute injury. Again, rest is vital. The ice is vital. If you're getting swelling, then compression and elevation are very important. Then you can address it with some other natural methods. There are certain supplements that have been found that can reduce. And this is something that we look at with patients in our office to make sure we're providing things that are going to be helpful, but also are not going to have any kind of major side effects in any way. I want you to feel better. I want your body to function better, so you can do the things that you're meant to be able to do. But we want to do that without a lot of side effects. So one of the first ones we're going to talk about is turmeric. Turmeric is in the curcumin family. They're very powerful anti-inflammatories, very powerful natural inflammatories. It's been proven to help with rheumatoid arthritis. It's been proven to help improve mood. It even affects blood sugar and cholesterol. Turmeric is one of those things that almost anyone that you talk to will swear by it, but there's research that shows that turmeric can be just as effective as certain anti-inflammatory medications. Very, very powerful. Boswellia, that's an herbal extract from a tree that has been shown to be helpful with rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and cancer. So Boswellia is another very good, very powerful supplement that's designed to help reduce pain. One of the others is fish oil. Fish oil is been shown to be really good for arthritis pain. And the omega-3 fatty acids inside fish oil, the EPA especially, has been shown to help reduce arthritis pain. If you're using fish oil for arthritis pain, you want to try to get 1 to 3 grams of EPA and DHA per day, and that will help relieve pain. So remember that 1 to 3 grams of EPA and DHA per day to help you to feel better. So if you already have some fish oil, some omega-3 fatty acids at your home, just take a look at it and see how many of those you need to take to get 1 to 3 grams of EPA and DHA in them. And if you go through it and you realize you have to take 20 or 30 of those, which some of them that's the case because there's not a lot in there, then you're not using a very pure source, and you'll be wasting a lot of money. There's some very good, very powerful, very pure sources of EPA and DHA that you'll want to consider. It's something that in our office we have an anti-inflammatory protocol, a nutritional protocol that we do for our patients that helps them with inflammation, and we make sure that the highest quality of these supplements are available in there. So supplements can help reduce pain. Now, we talked about dealing with acute injury. Okay, next, get to know the foam roller. So part of preventing injury is making sure that we're taking steps either before or apart from our workout to make sure that our muscles are ready. So there's a term called self-myofascial release. Much easier, we'll just call it foam rolling. Used to be this mysterious technique that only professional athletes and a few people in the sports field were doing, but there's much more recent information and technology, and the products are now super affordable. So more people have access to this, and it really is just this foam cylinder that you're going to do some self massage. So if you have any muscles where there are tight knots, they're called trigger points. If you have any of those areas, you take your foam roller and you just lie that tight muscle group right over top of that foam roller, and you just kind of roll back and forth over the muscle groups. And then when you find a really hard spot, you just kind of stop right over top of the foam roller, right over top of that tight muscle group, and you just hold that for about 20, 30 seconds until you feel it relax. And then you go again. And you can do this over the entire body, and then really focus on those trouble area. Likes to talk to me every once in a while if I've been working out really hard, and I've been going through this really fantastic fitness challenge here with my trainer, this training for warriors, and it's this great challenge that I recommend for anyone to be a part of. But every once in a while, if I work out hard enough, I have a hamstring that decides to tell me that it wants to get a little tight, and I have to break out my foam roller, and if I do that, and if I stay on top of it, then that allows my hamstring not to be too much of a problem during any kind of workout. So we can go pretty hard. Now, the next step: see the right professional. If this gets so bad, or it just doesn't improve, or you just don't see the kinds of changes that you'd really like to see, then you're going to need to see a professional, a professional who understands how to deal with these kinds of injuries, a professional that can get you feeling and functioning the way that you need to, so you can get back to the activity that you want to get back to. So you want to see someone who's going to perform a thorough evaluation. You want to see someone who can completely analyze the type of injury that you're dealing with. You want to see someone who's going to apply the proper treatment protocol. You want to see someone who's going to get you back into the activity as soon as possible. That's the key. So I'll tell you real quickly about some of the things that we do here in our office, and there's lots of different places you can go. I'm not going to be here and tell you that the only place you can go is your family chiropractor's office, or to my office. I know physical therapists that can do a good job with injury prevention and care. I know some great massage therapists that do a great job in helping with injury. But I'm going to tell you about our unique approach. To making a change, and to healing your body, and preventing and healing from these injuries. So the first step that we're going to take is we want to make sure that we're performing a very thorough evaluation. We'll do a number of tests, some orthopedic tests if we need to, some x-rays if we need to. We've got computers that will do posture evaluations that will measure your posture and various changes in your spine. We really try to go in as much detail to understand what's going on in the body. We want to know the type of injury. Is it a sprain or a strain, or was it just an issue with delayed onset muscle soreness or something like that? We want to make sure that we fully understand that, so that you get the proper protocol when it comes to healing your body. And then, depending on what we're dealing with, we apply that corrective protocol. And one of the things that we really like to focus on is not just getting us to a point where we're feeling better, but working on making real corrective changes in the body. And so we have our R3 corrective program, and what that is we have the three R's: relief, rebuild, and restore. And so we're just going to talk about probably the relief stage at this point. It starts with the program would start with the first step: relief. We need to get you feeling the way that you need to feel, get your body out of that pain state, that inflammatory state. So it may start with certain kinds of adjustments, whether that's adjustments to the spine, or adjustments to extremities, or if we notice that there's any issue where any part of the spine or body is not functioning mechanically the way it is, we're going to correct that. So that's the first step: correct the structure so that things are functioning the way that we need to. Then we're going to go into exercise, and we're going to look at coming up with ways to strengthen the muscles around the injured area and around the body in general, so that we can create some stability, so that you're less likely to get injured later. And so those exercises vary depending on the body part, depending on the type of injury. Those exercises must be individualized. We actually have a great app that we use for your exercise, where you can get on the app, you can do your exercise, you can even send us messages as far as how the exercise is working and feeling. And we really want to focus on getting you back to activity as soon as possible. So We have all sorts of great ways that we can do that and work with you. Some of our patients need a certain kind of traction, and that traction helps to train the spine, train the ligaments along the spine to help hold things in the right position. Some people need that, and some people don't. Again, it just depends on the nature of the issue that we're dealing with. And then we address nutrition. And nutrition is vitally important, because if your body um, is a is an environment that's going to welcome inflammation, you're going to get injured much more often than if your body is such that it doesn't really allow for this inflammatory process to happen. And I'll tell you about that. There's a couple things. Number one, you want to look at protein content, and the reason why. Especially if you're doing a lot of physical activity, you need to have enough protein in your diet. And the reason why is that protein is the building block for your body. It's the building block for your muscles. So if you stop, if you don't have enough protein and you start working out really hard, I mentioned before that delayed onset muscle soreness where your muscles break down and then they rebuild. Well, if you're not getting enough protein, then your muscles may not rebuild the way that we'd like them to, or as quickly as we like them to. So then you'll have more pain. So you just want to make sure you have enough protein in your diet. And that can be anywhere from 1/2 of a gram per pound of body weight. 1/2 gram per pound of body weight, all the way up to 1 gram per pound of body weight. That may seem like a lot, but again, if you're doing any kind of significant activity, you want to make sure you have enough protein to help build and rebuild those muscles so that you can heal. The next one, and this is actually probably more important for the pain purposes, and that's the amount of sugar that you take in. Sugar has very little or no real good nutritional value, and you want to, and the problem with sugar also is that sugar feeds inflammation. So if you have a diet that's full of sweet stuff, cookies and cakes and bread and pasta and those kinds of things, you have enough of that, and your body is just complete. Your body can be completely inflamed. And this isn't just one body part. I mean, this will affect the entire body. And so we have to address that nutrition component of it. One of the things that we have in our office is an anti-inflammatory nutritional protocol where we'll put our patients on a very specific elimination diet where we're getting rid of a lot of the things that our body can be sensitive to. And then we add very specific anti-inflammatory supplements. Some of the things that I mentioned before, very high quality versions of some of the things that I had mentioned before. And we put those different pieces together so that your body now isn't an environment that just feeds and feeds and feeds inflammation. That anti-inflammatory protocol we actually offer to our patients, and that anti-inflammatory protocol is $145. And it's the nutrition guide, the certain foods, and then very specific supplements that help reduce that inflammatory process in your body. It's a 10-day program, and in those 10 days, you will notice a change in how you're feeling just simply because of the nutrition that we're taking in. Now, I want to let you know, for anyone that's a part of this webinar, for being a part of this webinar, I wanted to let you know about something that we're offering. For anyone that's here today, we're offering that anti-inflammatory protocol that I had mentioned before. That's normally $145. And that's something that's available for you here today. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write up on the screen here. I'm going to post that offer so that you'll be able to see it. And at any point, you can just click on it, and it will be available for you. It says anti-inflammatory supplement, that thing there. Also, our complete exam and x-rays, everything that we do as far as our evaluation procedures, whatever we need to do to evaluate that injury, that issue that we're dealing with, that is something that we're offering that's normally $270. So that examination and x-rays, normally $270. We have the anti-inflammatory nutritional protocol, normally $145. We have an exercise program called our 21-day fitness fast track that we offer. You can find it in various spots on the internet for for $67. And all those things we're offering today. Let's see, we're offering today. And what is that? That is for $143. So you're getting about, almost $500 worth of products and worth of services for $143. And so that's something that's available for you. There's a link there on the side that you can click there, and you'll be able to make that purchase at that point. But we want to make sure that we're just putting all the pieces together so that you can experience the exercise that you want to experience and the health benefits from that exercise without hurting yourself, without having any reason to miss out because of pain or because of injury. It really it's deflating when we do our best to try to stay healthy and get healthy, and we don't seem to be able to get past that hump because of some kind of pain or injury. My goal is to make sure that you are not just another injury statistic. Once I started becoming intentional in my life and the way that I approach exercise, I no longer was that injury statistic where I'd start a challenge and 2 weeks into it, I'd start to not feel so hot. And then I decide, okay, I'm just going to take it easy. I'm just going to now, because I'm taking really good care of myself, I am not just another injury statistic, and you don't have to be either. So just take the information that you've gotten here at this webinar over the last 37 minutes. If you just use that information, that right there will get you moving in the right direction. If you want, if you're experiencing something that needs a professional to be a part of, then I encourage you to contact us, contact our office. If you're here in Southern Arizona, our phone number here is 596. If you want to take advantage of that special for the anti-inflammatory program, you are welcome to be a part of that and take advantage of that. You'll just click the link for that offer that's available there. It looks like we have a limit on the number of ones that are available. And so you can just click that and go ahead and make that purchase. And if you have any questions for me or our office, you can contact us anytime at tompkinschiropractic.com, or you can call us to schedule an appointment, again, at 520-572-2596. I'm Dr. Emil Tompkins, and I hope you enjoyed today. Thank you for being a part of this with us. We're working on getting the message of health out to the masses. Not just, my goal is not just to work on impacting health only in the office. We have something that can make a difference in people no matter where you are. And I want to make sure that we get that message out. That's why we put these webinars on. That's why we're happy to speak at any opportunity that we have, because we want to make a difference, not just here, but in our world. If you can become healthier, that doesn't just affect you, that affects your family. And if your family become healthier, that doesn't just affect the family, that can affect your community. And if your community becomes healthier, you can have an impact on the entire world. And that's why something as simple as this small day here can have an impact on a lot of people around you. And so I encourage you to take a part in the anti-inflammatory program, but I encourage you to share this information with others. If you know anyone that needs to be healthier, that needs to achieve better health and wellness, I invite you that message of health today. I'm Dr. Emil Tompkins. Stop sharing my screen here. Let's see how that goes. All right. And okay, so I think you can see me there. I'm Dr. Emil Tompkins, and I thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. I had a great time, and I hope there was one thing that you can take today and use to improve your health. and I'll look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day.